go. Well, thank you very much, Phoebe, for joining me today. It's great to be having you take part in this episode of Kind Leaders. What we're trying to do with Time for Kindness is share examples of the kind leaders that exist in the world as a way to show people that you're there, and also to give people ideas and perhaps inspiration if they are leaders themselves. Now, the person who sort of nominated you to take part talked about the fact that your group, your Repair Cafe Wales, is all about showing kindness and people working together, and that you offer a lot of support to those who want to start and run their own repair cafes. And also, your cafes are all filled with kindness from the volunteers and the attendees. So hence you're a perfect person to have this conversation with. So can I ask you to start by introducing yourself and your role, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Phoebe Brown. I'm the director of Repair Cafe Wales, which is a national charity that supports communities to set up and run repair cafes, which are really lovely pop-up spaces where members of the public can come in and have their items fixed by our very talented volunteers completely for free. So it's about stopping things going to landfill and bringing communities together and help teach people skills at the same time.
Fantastic. And how would you describe your role as a leader within that?
So I help look after the network. So we have around 140 repair cafes in that network, mainly in Wales, but also we've got about 10 in England as well. And we have a staff team of 9 of us, including me, that I manage to help run the organisation.
Fantastic. There's a lot of moving parts in that.
A lot of moving parts, yeah, a lot of people, a lot of volunteers, a lot of communities.
Fantastic. So obviously the conversation today is about kindness. So how would you define kindness? What does it mean to you?
I think it means taking like a people first approach. So thinking about people as humans before they are employees and before they are volunteers. So making sure that when we're thinking about work or we're thinking about volunteering, we're thinking about kind of everything else that's happening in someone's life as well, and how we can make sure the two work really well together. So yeah, I guess treating people with respect, treating them with patience, treating them with compassion and with empathy as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's great. I always find fascinating talking about kindness because it does mean slightly different things to different people. And yet that core, as you said, people first, humanity at the core of that is just fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you. So in terms of, I mean, you started to sort of touch on it, but can you tell us a little bit more about how you demonstrate kindness specifically as a leader, and kind of what difference do you think you being a kind leader makes to the people around you?
I think when it comes to our communities that we work with, it's a really key ethos of my leadership and of the organisation's leadership is making sure that everything we do is community driven and community led. So that's around putting the people that we work with first. So that's things like only opening repair cafes where there's actual demand for it, not assuming that we know what that community needs. So I know everything about how to run a repair cafe, but I don't know what the people in Carmarthen might need from their repair cafe, and I don't know what would work best for them. So it's about working with the people on the ground to understand what they need their particular repair cafe to look like. I can give them all the insurance and the risk assessments and the guidance and the policies from lots of experience, but they know what their community needs. They know what that repair cafe needs to look like. They know who they need to involve in that space, what voices need to be heard in the planning of that process. So when it comes to working with our communities, it's about making sure that they are at the forefront and centered and highlighted, and really listened to when it comes to what their space needs to look like, and supported to do that as best as possible. Where we can flex, we will flex. On some things we can't, like insurance, but on other things we absolutely can. So making sure that the people that we're working with are right at the forefront of all decision making. I think with my team, kind of similar really. So making sure that being kind in a leadership style is making sure that it's not a one size fits all for employees. So different people need different things in order to thrive well in their role. And I think it's about really taking the time to listen and understand what works best for that person, and as much as possible implement that in your leadership with that person. So that might be different forms of communication, that might be different ways of receiving instructions, it might be different working patterns. And we work remotely, so I have the benefit of being able to kind of flex what work looks like for different people so that it can help support their lifestyle as well. Because I think if someone feels safe and supported and listened to in work, they're more likely to perform better as well. So it's a kind of mutually beneficial approach, isn't it? So yeah, putting people first, making sure they're listened to, and considering your approach to their work in a bit more of a holistic sense, I think.
Yeah, fantastic. Love that, love that. And I think what's great about both those sort of aspects you described there is that it's not just about sort of being nice and fluffy. It's actually about it's better for the organisation as well as for the individual, or it's better for the community
Yeah,
and as well as the individuals and so on. So it's a win-win-win.
it is. Yeah, because I think there's a misconception, isn't there, that being kind in leadership means not having difficult conversations, not setting boundaries, not having deadlines. And I don't think it means any of that. Because that's not kind to anyone. You know, if someone doesn't have a structure to work in, that's actually really difficult. You know, if you don't know what's expected from you, if you don't know where you need to be when and what you need to be doing, then actually that doesn't do anyone any favors. So it's still
Absolutely.
making sure you feel comfortable having those difficult conversations, but doing it in a way that's respectful of the person and is communicated to them in a way that best suits them, and so they understand it as best as possible.
Yeah, fantastic. That's brilliant. And that leads nicely into my third question, actually, which is around, what would you say to leaders who are perhaps a bit nervous about bringing in kindness to the way they lead because they think it doesn't somehow make them a proper leader or it'll make them seem weak? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think I think yeah, that comes back to that misconception that kindness is just a bit fluffy. And actually, we often talk about productivity, don't we, in the workplace? And I think people are most productive, which is what we're all looking for from our teams, when they are treated with kindness, because they feel supported, they feel kind of safe to have those conversations that need to happen, they feel passionate about the work that they're doing.
Yeah,
So I think leading with kindness does get better results as well, which is often what we're talking about in those kind of conversations, aren't we? That being fluffy means we won't get anything done, but actually people are more likely to get something done when they're happy and enjoying the environment that they're working in.
yeah,
So I don't think they're two separate things. I think they can be one and the same.
yeah,
And I also think for us, we are quite non-hierarchical in our team, and we encourage staff to contribute to things outside of their role as well. So, you know, if our bookkeeper wants to join in on a creative conversation, she absolutely can. Or if our one of our project coordinators wants to dip into another project, they absolutely can. And that's mainly around kind of increasing collaboration and skills and things. But I do think when people feel respected, they're more likely to be creative as well, because you feel like you can suggest ideas that are maybe a bit out of the box or a bit more creative. And so it brings, not only does it bring more productivity, but it brings more ideas, it brings more uh creativity to the organization, which
yeah.
we all need all the time.
Yeah, fantastic. That's brilliant. Oh, I love that. And when I run my workshops, I bring in examples of research that backs up
Mm.
kindness. And actually, one of the studies I talk about was a study done at the University of Warwick, where they looked at happier employees and happier employees. Kindness leads to happier employees, and happier employees are 12% more productive. And you can't
Yeah,
really argue, can you? And that's exactly what you've said is your experience. So that's
yeah.
fantastic.
Because if people feel like they can have those open conversations with you because they're going to be greeted with respect and listened to, you're more likely to nip those problems in the bud as well, because people will come to you at the first stage of a problem appearing, something being a challenge in their home life, or something being difficult within work. And so that doesn't get buried and not dealt with because they're scared to have a conversation with you or whatever it might be. So I think it helps deal with all of those problems much more quickly as well, which again comes back to productivity.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's only a good thing, I think.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. One of the things we say at Time for Kindness is that kindness is powerful because it connects us as human
Yeah.
beings. And that's exactly, what you're describing there, isn't it? That if you've
Mhm.
got the relationships in place already, then when the tough times hit, and they always do in one way or another at some point, then you're in a better place to have those conversations.
Yeah, and I guess just my kind of final point, I think for us, because of what we do as an organization, there's an aspect of being kind to each other, but there's also a huge aspect of being kind to the planet within the leadership decisions that we're making, which I know it's important for lots of organizations, but for us particularly, it's thinking through the impact that not only we're having directly on the communities that we're working with, but on global communities as well, and what the everyday decisions that we're making, how they affect the planet and wider population, and the spaces that we're working and operating in. And I think that's an important part of the conversation as well, where kindness is also really important, is that bigger piece too.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, that comes right back to the core of what you're there to do, doesn't it? And the difference you want to see in the world. So brilliant. Kindness is so integral to that. Lovely. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and thank you for being a kind leader.
Thank you for having me.